Welcome to A Conversation with Movers and Shakers. It's one of our newest podcasts, and it's all about movers and shakers, people who have done well in business, captains of industry, success stories. Jamaicans are an ambitious set of people, and we like to celebrate and to admire those who achieve success. And in this podcast, we are trying to bring you those inspirational stories, yes? And in those stories, we hear about their journeys, the ups and downs, how they've had to pick themselves up from the floor, and so in some instances, start all over again. Today, we hear about the journey of the Chief Executive Officer of Phase 3 Productions, a young man, Delano Forbes. Welcome to A Conversation with Movers and Shakers, Delano.
Glad to be here, Cliff.
Very well. Phase 3. A lot of people know about Phase 3, a major television production house. Yes? A business that you grew up in, literally grew up in. Tell me about that growing up in Phase 3.
And it's interesting you say that.
Yes,
Cliff,
deliberately.
Phase 3, while a lot of persons do know Phase 3, at the same time I come across persons who don't know who we are, what we do, you know. And it stands today, Phase 3, we're an event and media production company. We started some 40 plus years ago, so very, practically my entire life. Growing up in a family business, it really started as my father's hobby. You know, my father being a customs broker, my mother being a nurse. So, you know, growing up in the house.
Hold on.
Yes.
Your father,
Yes.
Richard Forbes.
Yes.
Your mother, Marcia Forbes.
Yes, of course, we should qualify that. But certainly, you know, starting their careers in media, you know, and both have gone on, obviously, to make, you know, a number of marks in the field of media and communication in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. But starting off in the 80s, very, very modest start. Growing up at home, we lived in a community called Aylsham that I'm always grateful for growing up, because while I'm an only child, I feel, you know, I have many brothers and sisters in the community of Aylsham, because it was a very close, tight-knit community. It's probably a little different from today, because every day coming home, there would be 15, 20 children playing on the road, you know, playing all kind of activities. We never had any distractions the way we do have now with all the different technologies. But really grateful for that. And our business also started in that environment, in a family environment. And even everybody, all of my friends who knew, you know, we would be trying, you know, making content. Firstly, Phase 3 started primarily filming weddings and birthday parties and, you know, smaller type events and activities, and then kind of transitioned into a more professional setting, doing TV commercials in the late 80s. And at the time, you know, if you were at my house and a commercial was being made, you were probably used as talent, you know. So oftentimes if there was something happening, you know, and we would often use the house as a location, you know, to keep the cost down, that kind of thing. So it wouldn't be unusual for myself or friends to be kind of thrown in at the last minute if there was a need for, you know, an extra hand or a prop or a child to be present.
At what age you became conscious that, listen, this is what dad does?
I would say I remember being pretty involved, and again, this was my father and Phase 3, and to this day started out a passion. It wasn't like he did a business plan and realized that, hey, this is media and video technology was going to be the next big thing. It really just started with his obsession for electronics, and a video camera was just one of those tools. I mean, he used to make all kinds of odd gadgets, you know, wiring up all kinds of things for all kinds of household activities, etc. So in terms of, you know, even video and media, he wasn't a camera person or anything like that. He just had a real strong passion for electronics, and he was a people person, you know. And coming out of customs and realizing now that he needed to start his own business and found this avenue, his love of electronics, you know, and this passion for media on a whole, it kind of grew from there. I would say probably being about 8, 7, 8 years old. I remember now, being surrounded in it. At the time, we had a lot of trade magazines. So I would often go from the school book to an Archie comic to a video systems magazine, So I literally grew up reading, he introduced me to a lot of these things very early. And that really reinforced, a similar passion in terms of, so I literally grew up reading about the same kinds of technologies. There, as I kind of got a little older, probably, 10, 11, 12 years old now, aside from working on location, if there were times where we're going to get a new technology and probably he had to go away for work, I would sometimes accompany him, and just kind of got an opportunity to learn the business from the ground up, with it being at home. And then in the late 80s, so by that time I'd be about 10, 11 years. We actually, 10, 11 years old, we moved to our first facility, which was on Osborne Road, which is, not too far from here, 3 to 5 Osborne Road.
But you were also being prepared
Yes.
for the business. You went and you did a first degree.
Well, when you kind of go through, in high school, so, 13, 14 years old, I wanted to do everything other than what my parents were doing. Mainly for the reason you don't want, you did what your parents did.
Yeah.
You want to be your own person. You want to make your own marks. At one point,
So how did you end up doing that Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from the Tisch School of Arts, specializing in film and television
some hard
production?
realities hit, Cliff. One being, I was actually pursuing architecture, and at one point, I wanted to be a pilot. That was a little bit more far out, but definitely architecture was something. All my studies were around that, and that's something I had an interest in. Technical drawing, etc. Actually did an internship at an architectural, after working at Phase 3 for many years, and out of adversity, my father became blind. So my father became blind when I was about 14, 15 years, struggling, through diabetes, and he struggled when I was 16 years old. He became blind, and the family had to make some real decisions at the point. And, I kind of looked at it, and even though I was working in the business from like shooting a camera, editing, from about the same age as a hobby. But again, fighting not wanting to create my own mark, do my own thing. And at that point it became, but come on guy, you're just fighting this thing just because of your own personal hang-ups. Clearly this is an area you have a great passion in, which I did have, and had some amount of ability in it, of starting so long and growing up with some of the greats, in around my house. You'd have had a Fred Lusan, a John Wakeling, who was my father's business partner. Most weekends were at Uncle John's house, who was well known in the radio broadcasting, field,
Formerly
audio.
GBC.
Exactly.
And RJR.
And RJR, Richard Lannerman, and there's so many names in this media field that I would have grown up around and admired, So
your dad was saying to you, come in the business.
he was like, son, at this point, yes, and like any business, it's not always rosy. And at that particular point,
Difficult.
he was blind. At the time, my mother was actually away pursuing further studies. So it was myself and him, teenage child, how it is sometimes. Fathers and sons at times have these kinds of differences. And at that point, I guess you can say some amount of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I was carrying him to work every day, checking the checkbook just to make sure, okay, check number 1, 2, 3 at the time. I remember the citizen's checkbook. I remember it very well because I'd often be the one writing up the vouchers. And, just as rudimentary as looking at the checkbook and going through the sequencing of the numbers to make sure the check leaves were aligned and, that, because he was signing stuff blind.
Oh.
Literally.
Yeah.
So carrying him to work every day, going to school, coming back and picking him up after going to school, some realities kind of came in, and it's like, okay, time now.
Tell me that moment when you realized that this is it. You had to step up.
I think there was one particular moment.
Yes.
And that moment would have been a key team member left to start their own business. And more power to him. And it was a big transition also in technology at the time. Back at that stage in the 90s, you needed to buy all this very expensive, highfalutin equipment. There was a barrier to entry that by this time, fortunately for us, because we started from literally nothing, we had now grown the business to a point where we could probably access some amount of financing and formal things. So we could make some of those investments, not comfortably, because it was very, very competitive. And we were like one of the smaller production companies of many other very, very profitable production companies run by financial companies, etc. We were still, for lack of a better word, a mom and dad kind of shop, right? But that said, we had big ambitions, and we had great relationships, good customer service, passion, and the values that we hold up to today. And that transition was a team member actually left to start their own production company, and the technology had just shifted. We moved from this big room with all these different devices, an edit control and a switcher and this and that, to a computer. At the time it was an Avid, or it was a media, there were different options. Non-linear editing was now the big thing, and we were caught flat-footed with the linear editing, which is the tape machines and all that kind of stuff. Computer-based editing just came in, like similar to the desktop revolution for video.
Yeah.
And we were not in line with that at all. And more power to the person. We still have an excellent relationship with the person. We work with that person till today. But that was a sea change for me, because it became like, okay, you're the teenage kid running around the office every day. Now it's on you, And we had, quite frankly, a lot of our clients left. And new technology, it was a big shock.
Yeah.
But that person was the main person, creative director, editor, managing a lot of the commercials and the content we're creating at the time.
So how did you overcome that?
Boy, there are a few, and I don't want to call any names because I don't want to leave out any persons, but there's one gentleman I probably have to shout out in particular, a guy named Leo Origio, Big Daddy.
Oh, Leo
If you remember
Origio.
Leo Origio, I remember him being one of the first people who said to me, boy, you would have a music video to make. And he was very well known at that time for making music videos for a lot of the popular artists in the 90s. And big up Leo, but I don't know if it was a matter of budget or whatever. I sat down and learned to edit with Leo, doing a lot of those productions. And just like somebody who had the patience to kind of say, boy, and calling a few other persons, because again, it's not like today where you go on YouTube and there's a manual. These systems are designed around you. So, every piece of equipment was cherry picked. So there's no manual to operate this room of different devices which are connected to act as one system. So literally every night I was there with my dad and others, and we basically deconstructed it and built it back, and had to learn it brick by brick as to how to go about at the same time saying, Daddy, we need to get that non-linear editing thing everybody else is doing right now.
Yeah.
And that was a big shift for
So
us.
the big break for you and phase 3. Tell me about that, when you really made the leap and made a mark. And
I think the big break that kind of stands out is coming home. Again, Cliff, I can't reinforce anymore phase 3's story, and in terms of how businesses are built. Now that I'm older, and I've gone and done my masters in business and all these kinds of things, I now understand a lot more. It's kind of remarkable that we even survived some of these transitions, But I would say coming home, some of the clients that stuck with us, got an opportunity. I went away, went to New York University, studied film. Daddy kept saying I was even working up there, and at one point I was kind of waiting to, he was like, son, again, just like how that guy at the shutter when he left, and I realized big time, it's your time now. As in New York, doing well, working for other production companies, and Daddy's like, okay, son, you've studied, we needed to come back home, you got an opportunity I never had. My father never had a university degree, so he's like, you must do this, you must be qualified in this field, you need to go and study these things, so nobody can say you don't know what you're speaking about, even though I will tell you, Most of what I've learned was still from the peers and the people on the ground. But that said, obviously, going to NYU studying film really was a game changer for me. And coming home with that level of exposure, experience, coming back and now, I think the first set of projects I worked on, a number of TV commercials, music videos, which was a passion. Did all of like Tessa and Chin's first videos. Did Wayne Marshall's first videos. Worked a lot with Busy Signal. Worked a lot with a lot of big artists. Worked a lot with a lot of brands. Coca-Cola. Used to go to Trinidad and do TV commercials. Because again, coming from NYU as a film student now, for that era, I was the new person on the block, you know? So I would say definitely coming home from college, being able to work with a lot of those big brands, doing TV commercials and music videos. I came home 2001, so 2002 to 2005, did a lot of work, and at that time I was directing, I was shooting, I was editing pretty much all the content that was made out of Phase 3 for many, many years, Obviously we didn't have as much of a team, but really spent a lot of time doing the creative work, writing the treatments. At the same time, nobody knew I was at the back doing the invoicing. So that was, very interesting, a very fun period for me. And you come home from college, you want to showcase what it is that you've learned. You want to exercise, So for me, that was a big break.
The technological changes now.
Yes.
You spoke of the shift to non-linear editing.
Yeah, man. That was at the time. That was a big one. Yes.
Yeah, but since then, over the last, changes have been rapid.
Yeah, man. Every 3 or 4 years, there's a shift. And for us coming from traditionally just being a media video production company, shortly after coming home, I said, "Boy, Dad, we need to grow the business and get more involved in live events." The screens, the audio-visual, the services we provide for all of these corporate clients that we have now, hotels, etc. We planted the seed to kind of grow the business, not just to do content, but to be able to service a wider market. And a lot of that came out of, our clients wanting us to deliver more and more services. So there have been so many changes in technology since that time, the early 2000s. Obviously where we are today, now, social media with all the different platforms, we have just been constantly evolving and changing the company to meet the current market. Even most recently, COVID was a game changer for us. Obviously we were all impacted negatively, from the onset. Obviously personally, all the challenges that we faced.
But tell me, the impact of the social media platforms today. How have those changes impact what you do?
Well, for us, it's a matter of changing the medium that we're delivering in. We've never been a broadcasting station. At the core, we make content, we deliver experiences. The media side of the company makes content, with video content, and it's really agnostic to whatever platform we're putting it on. So we used to be doing a lot of live content for, your TVJs, your CVMs, your TV6 in Trinidad, whatever platform, or for export, because we do quite a bit of live production for export as well, specifically football. Today, though, we find that we're not necessarily, or when we're delivering content, we're not just delivering it to 1 or 2 traditional platforms, because these media entities are still, I'm not saying it's all over, but certainly the growth has been in digital. So we find now that when we're making content for traditional media, we're making content for social media, vertical content, and so for us, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whatever is the next new thing, around the horizon, we as content creators, we just try to ensure that we have the tool set, as in the personnel, the technical resources, the stories, to be able to deliver to these new platforms. Because as a content creator, you have to be dynamic and you have to keep reinvesting.
Let me go behind the scenes a little. You have won the award for the best music video director from the CBU. for 3 consecutive years.
That was a long time ago, Cliff, but
Yes.
yes, in that period.
2002 to 2004.
Yes.
You were also the recipient of the Prime Minister's Youth Award for Entrepreneurship in 2002.
So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah. No, that's
And
it.
what I want to ask you, as an artist,
Yes.
as a technical man,
Yes.
I know that can be traumatic. You're coming down to the wire and you're live and you have to say to the team, go.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How that
Well,
can be
And
testing for you.
You kind of touched on something, Cliff, because live production is really and truly a big part of what has differentiated Phase 3 in terms of, even if you go back to the content production companies that would have existed to media companies back in that era. Right now, pretty much none of them exist till today. They've certainly the private production companies, and we, for some time, for a very long time actually, live content has been a big part of what we do. And I personally love live content. I mean, coming from film school, I've done a lot of other kinds of content, produced, as you mentioned, those music videos and those TV commercials and stuff. But live, nothing quite gives us the thrill. And then also we realize that that's a unique skill that we have. And I mean, I'm, as much as I'm at the forefront of the company sometimes, and unfortunately I have to step back. I still enjoy the craft, and at times still get a little bit of an opportunity to be involved. I mean, we recently did, for example, the Freedom Street concert where we did all the delivery for that show, New Year's Eve. And while I had a technical director there, there's one or two artists I'm like, okay, give me a little bit of a chance to get back on the board and do what we love to do. So that passion, and it's very little scope or no scope for error. When we make an error on a live broadcast, everybody tends to see or to know, whether it be a microphone cue or whatever it is. There's no take two, and it's really a team sport, and that's probably, again, something I'm very, very proud in terms of Phase 3 and our team. We've been able to deliver on, and persons come on the team, and like anything, persons go.
The most challenging assignment.
The most challenging one? Freedom Street was an interesting one. No, but I would say the most challenging assignment right now for me, quite frankly, is the project I'm working on right now. We're working on the World Cup next year, and we're working on the Gold Cup. We're working on the FIFA World Cup next year, the technical delivery.
Yeah.
And closer to that, I'm working on the Gold Cup, which is in the USA in the summer. And we're making all the production plans right now for that. This is now me as a broadcast consultant.
Right.
In terms of Phase 3 and some of the other projects we work on,
Yeah.
again, right now we're working on the Bahamas Beach Soccer Tournament.
Uh-huh.
We have a team of 20 that will be going for the 11th to the 16th of March. And we're in the process of putting that production together. That will be on Fox Soccer Channel. And we're delivering 5 days. I think we're delivering about 18 matches over 5 days of an international tournament where the team were in the Bahamas. The cameras, the lights, the everything, we're shipping them from Jamaica.
You've seen a lot.
We've seen a lot. So the challenges, like even right now, the challenges are right in front of us right now as we speak.
What advice you give to those who are about to enter or just entered this business?
Like anything, you just for me, number one, you have to enjoy it. If you don't have a passion for something,
Don't do it.
please don't do it, And two, again, going back to my dad and my mother, obviously, stick to it. Whatever you're doing, just kind of stick to it. I find a lot of persons, and I'm not saying, boy, go forever, but I find sometimes you start something kind of moving around, and obviously you have to kind of find what's your thing. But if you really have a passion in something and you realize, and it has to make sense economically as well, but there's something about just kind of sticking to something, because it takes, it's taken us 40 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
So, and we continue to,
Thank you
to
so
move
much.
on it.
Thank you so much for being part of the conversation
Yes, sir.
with Movers and Shakers, Delano Forbes.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate your
By
taking
the time just moved.
It went very quickly, very quickly. So
Thank you.
there you have it, folks. You want to join us on Conversation with Movers and Shakers? You can go online, our YouTube channel, or social media platforms, on Instagram, TikTok, yes, Facebook, and you will see Delano Forbes. An inspirational story for the youngsters thinking of a career in this business. Stick-to-itiveness, he says. Key, persevere, and love it. You have to enjoy it. It is not work when you feel the passion for it. Take care. See you next time on another edition, another conversation with Movers and Shakers.